Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms.
Every single one of them, too.
It's written work, it's game.
Great.
Let's meet the panel.
Lily,
Ari,
Charlie,
and Josh. What are we going over today, Lainey?
Today we'll be discussing A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury.
Woohoo!
Ray Bradbury is a genius.
I love this story. This is probably my favorite short story ever.
Thunder scares
It
me.
is one of my favorite short stories.
Josh,
but-
I have one question for you.
Yes?
Are you afraid of firemen?
No.
The what?
I've only...
Fahrenheit 451,
I'm aware.
always be afraid of firemen.
The fear I have has to do with this kind of future that if people
Go
keep
back.
making the choices that they make, then that may very well be one of its elements.
Well, I just don't like thunder.
Even though the story was written, I think in the 1950s, right?
1953.
So not 1953. So even though the story was written
Or
in 1952, excuse me,
451 was 53.
it is now. How many years later? It's got to be at least about 60-something years
61.
later. 61 years later, and it's almost 2055 if you think about it. This story takes place in, well, the beginning of it anyway, takes place in 2055, and to see that that's coming up so fast makes this even more important now than it was back in 1954.
Either way, it's always been relevant. This is... The concept will remain eternally relevant.
Kind of reminds me of the song. Of course, I'm a musician as well, and I like classic rock, the 60s, 70s. In the year 2525.
Oh, that's a
great.
beautiful.
I enjoy that.
Oh, yes.
25, 25.
Yeah.
I don't know the words, but I know the drum part.
I know
For everything you think, do, and say is in that bill.
This show is now a musical. Welcome, guests.
Me and Josh love that song. I've actually covered that song too.
I can recite it all, but I'll do it on another occasion. What's the first question?
All right, panel. The first question is, what is the significance of going back in time to hunt instead of to explore?
Ooh.
To hunt means you are getting rid of something within a period of time, and you're interfering with the motion of what that material has to offer. If you're exploring, it's not
It's
as
different.
complicated.
You're just looking, observing, taking notes, maybe some photographs.
There's something I must get off my chest.
Your jacket?
People think time is just one strict progression of cause to effect, but actually...
It's
It's
timey-wimey
a
and
ball of
wibbly-wobbly.
timey-wimey stuff.
Indeed.
Don't
Everybody enjoyed the Doctor Who jokes. It's really beautiful.
Count the shadows.
Doctor Who?
Yeah, Doctor. That's the name of the show.
But
the point is,
Now welcome to our Abbott and Costello.
Anyway, the point I was making was the Doctor is just an explorer. He doesn't really interfere. He just tries to set things right. Some things are fixed, some things aren't.
several asterisks follow that sentence, by the way, but we can get into that at another time.
But with regard to how it connects with this work, when you're hunting, you're put in a very sticky situation because the concept of you interfere with one thing and it's going to interfere with everything else that follows it is put into a more concrete lens, and that if you are to kill the dinosaur, you better hope that it's able to serve its purpose while it's dead, and that if you were to take it back, you're going to create even bigger mess.
And that's why they make the thing where two things whatever. Number one is that the dinosaur would have been killed anyway because the ones marked with red paint were going to be killed by like a falling tree branch or something. So no matter what, you just killed them, they would have died anyway. And the second thing is, instead you can't actually bring back the dinosaur, so you had to like take a picture and bring that back. And there's also some path you had to stay on to make sure that
You
don't
can't
leave
be
that
in
path.
contact with the jungle.
You cannot.
It's
leave
a
that path.
hovering path that puts you outside of contact with the ground.
But yet there are people that are not going to listen.
like ECKELS equals.
And then the idea of, you get the whole idea of what does it mean to be groundless then, and when people's actions are groundless. You can't justify what the person is doing, and yet hunting is essentially a task of pursuit, and pursuing what here?
We are pursuing an act of pride.
Pursuing humankind's dominance over an Earth that could swallow it up like an insect any second.
And this is during a time that they did not have recorded interaction with either.
Yeah.
Or if it was very minimal.
And also,
The sound was very bad back then. Microphones were very.
There were no microphones.
no, there
In
were
1959,
microphones.
In 1953,
Yeah,
I
but
thought
they
you
were
meant
very
prehistoric.
Oh,
no,
no, not that didn't. Yeah.
No.
It's also exploring can be dangerous too, because if you make the same mistake as you do with hunting, it's very easy. You could make the same exact mistake, cause the same exact consequences in the future.
That's why I don't hunt.
To each his own.
But
I don't
Pompeii is
know either.
fixed.
Yeah.
This thing loaded? Is this thing loaded? Are you sure? Now, where's the safety on it? I've actually done that before. Believe it or not.
We'll get to guns a little later.
What's our next question?
Is the butterfly effect a key message to this work better when it is explained or when actual evidence is shown when they return to 2055?
I mean, if you're reading the story, it's probably most greatly shown at the end, probably. When you see that sign is messed up or it's been changed, and you can see all the other changes, like Dozier becomes president instead of Keith, you really have to say, when someone's explaining to it, you're in like the heat of the moment. I'm sure Eccles wasn't really paying that much attention at all when that was happening, but he doesn't realize it until the end when everything in the future had changed. So I would say the end is more, you notice it more in the end than you do in the middle.
It's always better when you have physical evidence because the painted picture speaking 1,000 words always rings true.
Well,
in most occasions. But at the same time, the way that they bring it up, it's very much relatable to Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's not preachy in the way that it's only the fact that they're saying that you do one little thing and it's going to affect everything else that follows.
We don't know for sure, but it is possible.
Could that be considered the domino effect as well? You do something and it affects something.
The domino effect is a little bit different. The butterfly effect means that if you were to go back into time and you changed one little thing, it may affect everything else that follows.
So I see the difference.
For instance, a lot of people, they ask the question, what if Kennedy had not been assassinated?
Interesting.
That is...
we would have been out of Vietnam sooner.
And many other people theorize that he would have had a horrible presidency.
Oh yeah.
So you never know.
There was a television show I watched called Red Dwarf where they said that he would have become like a pedophile basically. He'd be going with all these women, and then he would go to jail. No, but he would have gone to jail. He would have it would still be called Idlewild Airport in 1965. He apparently would go to jail because of everything he was doing, but.
He would have made out
I
fine.
thought
He had
Stephen
mob
King's,
connections.
the way that he theorized what would have happened if Kennedy had lived in 11/22/63 was relatively wide.
Did you want to say something?
I was going to say both the explanation and the evidence of the butterfly effect are pretty important because the explanation is what seeds it. And then you see it in the evidence, you see that modified sign, and you're like, those weren't just words. But you have no just words to go back to. You have no sense of any stake in anything without that explanation coming first.
You won't understand what's coming up.
I think for the reader, the explanation is more important, but for the character, the ending is more important. Actually, the ending's kind of important for the reader too, but because we had to learn about it first.
Ray Bradbury is known for trying to convey a message through his literature, and very much like Rod Serling, he usually ends his work with a twist.
Did the whole having to go back in time to hunt make a reference to extinction?
That's a very good piece of food for thought.
Extinction as to what though?
Because extinction will remain as long as there is a physical life.
As long as there's a food chain or of some
There
sort
will
or
be
some sort of death
there
chain.
will be different generations of different creatures. Perhaps in the year, I'm going to say 5,000, there may be another species that is ruling in society. It may not be humans. It may be
The great baboon.
Might be.
it may be regressive.
The big baboon,
I
remember?
like spaghetti months.
If you
I
are
love
an
spaghetti.
evolutionist.
Emperor Cruel.
Spaghetti would be delicious.
I love spaghetti.
Who doesn't?
Ooh, me too. Next question.
Alrighty. Explain the title A Sound of Thunder. Why is it logical to explore both its literal and figurative meaning?
Sound of Thunder was used twice. The first time it was used because it was there was a sound of thunder at a crucial point in the story.
I think the other
And
one
it
was-
also said that particular thunder also faded later. So
And at the end,
is the gunshot.
yeah, that's how
story ends.
that's how Eccles is.
That's I think that's the very last sentence.
That's how they do away with Eccles and his cluelessness.
Well, yeah.
That can't happen to me, can it?
Depends
Are
if
you
you
going
want.
to be
If you
going back in time anytime
Well, no,
soon?
but what if
do
I'm
you
well?
plan on not listening
any time
to
in
the
the
people?
past?
And,
No, I listen to the people. I just sometimes I forget.
Are you
Charlie,
gonna-
take out the trash. Okay.
Eccles really just he screwed everything up,
Yeah.
and so Travis decides once he realizes that probably I think the nail in the coffin was when they said that Keith was not elected; it was the other guy.
Yeah.
So once that happens, he just shoots him, and that's when it says, or we assumed he shoots him.
Yeah,
and it says
you
the
just heard a
sound of thunder.
He
And
wanted to go back into time and fix that mistake, but they didn't want that. They thought
They thought it would make it worse.
yeah, he was going to do
He's
even more
too
damage.
clumsy and too, you know,
Oh, I'm clumsy.
idiotic.
For all we know,
It's okay. This guy's probably
the
more
sign
clumsy
would have
now.
been
Really?
symbols.
So, if you're thinking about the whole idea of comparing a gunshot to thunder, you're comparing something man-made to something natural, right?
Mhm.
And hunting, what's hunting but attempted human dominance over nature?
That's
So it all
a
comes full circle.
I'm
that's a
slippery in the
convenient way for humans to garner not only power but be able to maintain that with because when people hunt, they either hunt for food or they hunt for pride.
And most of the, I think in this story is for pride.
It is for pride
There
because
is
they
there's,
take
there's no need for food.
because if it was Eccles was probably going to take the dinosaur and hang it up in his house.
I think Eccles at the beginning of the story is overconfident. He thinks that he can go back in time and kill the dinosaur. And then once he sees the dinosaur,
It's
when
like,
it says the sound of thunder the first time, when he sees the dinosaur when he says he sees the dinosaur, he gets scared out of his wits. I think that when it says the sound of thunder for the first time, it's like an actual thunderstorm. Everything, it changes from like a light sky to a darker sky. So I
Everything
think
changes.
Eccles just completely went, oh God, I'm scared now, I don't want to do this anymore.
There's this line saying the rifle he was holding was equivalent to a cap gun.
Well, it's naivete to awareness. It's the realization that something has impact, because what does thunder do? It rattles.
It scares me. That's what
Scares
it is.
people, I think. Exactly, good point.
There are people that do get scared by, and I know dogs that get scared by the sound of thunder.
Unless you're
It's irrational
Pajama
fear.
Sam.
Yeah.
Anybody have any final thoughts?
This book, I have to say, if you have not read this story yet, this story is like the best short story I have read personally, and I'm sure it's up high in lists of everyone here.
It's one of my favorites.
I
would
would
say
suggest it, definitely.
it was on my when I was going to college and running a literature club. This was one of my 5 short story recommendations for the club.
My number 1 is A&P by John Updike, which is a
that's good.
completely
Heard of that
other
one.
genre.
I
but-
worked in an A&P.
Mm-hmm.
I was Charlie
think
Tuna. I worked in the seafood department.
Mhm.
Very fitting. You look a bit like Charlie Tuna in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's the glasses.
Yeah.
Don't say I look like Eugene Levy. I'm really gonna go nuts then.
I was thinking Gonzo sometimes too.
Are you saying I'm Gonzo?
It's like on occasion.
Phenomena.
I have one more thought actually.
Okay.
Another thing with this book is you have to look. I think one of the things you need to look for is not just the major characters, but also the minor characters, the ones that don't really do anything, like the assistant guy and the other two people that were with Eccles. They, even though they're minor characters, they really add to the story because you have like a reaction of what's going on with Eccles and with Travis and all the other characters.
Yeah,
And
you do need
you
people-
need that reaction to be able to not only just explain what's going on for the reader, but also to have like an emotion.
You need
attached
people that
to
are
it.
going to obey, and you're going to need people that are immediately affected by such a.
Well, you get that
Rapid.
again.
And in the end, everyone is.
You get that again in Fahrenheit 451 when Mildred overdoses on the sleeping pills and the two attendants. The attendants are smoking while she's being operated on, and they're like, it's just some machine, it does it in 2 seconds.
Mildred was completely jaded by that particular society, which that's exactly what Ari's bringing about. Is there are people that are obedient in this society, and then in Fahrenheit 451 society, you have plenty of others, including a crucial character in Mildred that is also obedient.
It's like saying one mistake by one man changed everything. And even if you are obedient, there are consequences for you, even though someone else was the one that did it.
That is true. Ready? We're good to go. You are interested in reading Ray Bradbury. There are a few outlets that you can turn to.
This is the best time travel stories of the 20th century. It was edited by Harry Turtledove, and it has other stories too, like Time's Arrow. Yesterday was Monday. It has time tipping in it as well. Time tipping in is an excellent story.
There's a Richard Matheson piece in there as well.
Yes. Death Ship is Mr. Richard Matheson's story.
Matheson is brilliant with I Am Legend and the Thinking Man.
Yes. So
My suggestion would be you should definitely pick that up as well, but the Bradbury Classic Stories, this is the first edition. There are stories from his collections that include The Golden Apples of the Sun, and then there's R is for Rocket, which is where The Sound of Thunder makes its appearance. Alrighty, be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators.
as long as no one goes back in time and screws everything up.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you sure about that, Charlie?
What? I'm just gonna eat my cookies, drink my Snapple, and I'm gonna be.
All ready for
Sounds
now?
like a smart man.
Keep reading.